Hey everybody, welcome back to the Tales of the Pod podcast. My name's Michaela, I'm your host.
And I'm your co-host, Nick. How's it going, guys?
So this week we are going to be talking about our top, 14 scariest movie moments.
Yeah, there's a lot. We just kind of agreed on 14 because we could keep going and going.
I know.
And we didn't want to make it too small either, obviously.
I know. At first I was like, we'll do top 5, and then it turned into like top 7, then top 10, and then there was just so many.
I started remembering, I'm like, oh man, all those like good jump scares and all like the older movies and everything too,
yes.
you know.
There's so many. And I want to just say too, like, horror is subjective to everybody, so like what's scary to one person might not be scary to another, so
exactly,
everything's different. These are our personal scariest moments. We probably forgot some. We left some out, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
But I want to do another episode too on iconic horror movie moments, because there's a lot of movie moments that are iconic,
but also kind of like frightening,
but also kind of scary,
too, you know,
but more iconic than anything, I would say. But these are just our personal, like, what actually scared us.
Yes.
So, Nick, you want to go first? We're going to count backwards from our, I guess, least scary to most scary.
Mine's really not in any kind of particular order. They're all kind of scary to me. But yeah, I mean, obviously, there's going to be some that... I'll save my favorite one for last, I guess, the one that really, like, scared me.
Okay.
So I'm going to actually start with The Conjuring, and it's the one scene in The Conjuring, the one from 2013, the original Conjuring movie, where I forget what happened. They had like a bad dream, and the little girls are like, she's like sleepwalking or something like that, and she's at this armoire, and she's like banging her head on the armoire, and then so the other sister, like, you know, wakes up and sees her doing that, and then, like, you know, is like, oh, go back to sleep. I forget the kid's name in the movie and everything.
Yeah, there's like 6 of them.
Yeah, they're hard to keep track of the names, but this older sister wakes up and she's like, oh, come back to bed, lay down and everything, and then, like, she, like, lays down, and then she, like, comes to out of her sleepwalking, and on top of the armoire, there's the freaking witch, and it's, like, all, like, I don't even know, like gargoyle-like.
Contorted.
It's like ready, and then it like pounces on him, but when it jumps on him, it disappears.
Yes.
And just that scene alone was so, just like, oh my god.
And she, like, when the camera pans to, I think it's Bathsheba on top of the...
Yeah, it's Bathsheba. That's
what's it called? Armoire. When she's on top of that, she almost like hisses too. She's like...
Yeah.
And then she just pounces on them, but you don't expect it when it
happens. No, you don't
happens.
expect it at all, because it's like immediately, like, after the girl wakes up, she, like, you know, the camera turns because her eyes, like, you know, so it's like focusing on her face, and her eyes, like, get wide, and then the camera pans, and it's her, Bathsheba, on top of that armoire, and just, she's like, and it, like, zooms in on her face. You get, like, a really good look at what she looks like, and
she's all, like, she has, like, a green tint to her skin, almost, all distorted. Like, that movie has so many jump scenes alone, I would say. The Conjuring, especially the first one, has a lot of good scenes.
Yeah, James Wan, just all his movies have. There's a couple James Wan movies in here that I have.
Rightfully so. That's such a good scene.
So yeah, that's my, I guess, number 14. I guess we'll do it like that. I'll try to go through, make it like my least favorite to my favorite, I guess, you know.
My number 14, I picked Jeepers Creepers, the tongue eater scene, which this is such an iconic scene. If anybody hasn't seen Jeepers Creepers, you know, the brother and the sister, they're outrunning this, like, creature thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, they see a cop on the side of the road, and they're like, okay, we're being saved. And, you know, Jeepers Creepers swoops in, kills the cop.
Yeah.
And he decapitates him. So the cop's head is just laying on the pavement.
Yes.
And the brother and sister, it's Justin Long, I don't remember the girl's name, but they're watching from their car. And Jeepers Creepers gets out of the cop car, and he's whistling the song, Jeepers Creepers. Where'd you get those peep? Like, he's whistling it as he walks up to the cop's decapitated head. He picks it up, and he starts sniffing it. And Justin Long's like, what is that?
Because the whole time they think it's like a person. It's really up until that point they get a good look at him and see it's like a demon, basically.
Yeah, they think it's just some, like, road rage man chasing them around in his truck.
Yeah.
And you could see he, like, sniffs the head. He flips it over to the front side where it's, like, face to face with this decapitated head. Sniffs it again, and then starts almost, like, making out with it. But when he comes out, he's, like, sucking on the guy's tongue and, like, chewing it out of his head.
Yeah.
And Justin Long is, like, telling his sister, he's like, go, 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 go. And, of course, the car, like, it's, like, stick shift, so the car is, like, stalling, of course.
Gears and everything like that, trying to get into gear.
And they just peel off, but it's so cool. It's, like, the first time you actually see Jeepers Creepers as an actual, like, creature.
Yes.
And you can see how calm he is. He's just whistling his own song. Walks up to his head.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time is Jeepers Creepers.
I love Jeepers Creepers. And then when he starts to sniff it, you're like, okay, this is not a person.
Yeah. there's something wrong.
Some kind of creature.
It's like, imagine seeing that movie in theaters.
Oh my God, yeah.
Not really knowing what Jeepers Creepers is,
yeah. You have no idea, and it just...
And then it's like, oh, it's not even a person. It's like a demon gargoyle thing that flies.
Every 23 years.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so for my number 13, let me see here. I picked... Okay, so this one's... It's a good jump scene. It's really not, like, terrifying by any means, but it's the scene in The Others. So, like, we talked about The Others here on this channel before, but it's the scene where the kids are, like, hiding in the closet because they think, like, there's something out in the room, like, that they can't see and everything like that, and they're, like, hiding in the closet and whatnot. I think that actually the mom put them in there because, like, all the blinds were missing and they can't have the sunlight on them. They have that disease. And then, like, they, like, hear something, like, outside the closet, and they're, like, kind of cowering. It's, like, a short scene, too. They're kind of, like, cowering, like, oh, freaking out. And then, like, the door opens, and it's this old woman with, like, whited over eyes, and it's just for, like, a split second, and then, like, they scream, and then she's gone, basically. And then the mom comes running in, like, what? It's a classic jump scare scene. It was pretty terrifying. Yeah. I mean, it is... It's just a good jump scare.
Slow burn of a movie, too. So a jump scare in that kind of movie is really effective because you're kind of just, like, tension building, waiting for something to happen because it's such a slow burn.
Yes.
So when something does happen, you're like, oh, God.
Yeah, I know. And that's, like, I got another one on here that's a slow burn movie, too. But it does it well.
Yeah, like, by the time it gets to it, you're, like, ready for it.
Yes.
No, that's a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
My number 13, I picked... This isn't really... scary as much as it is unsettling, but I picked the digestion scene from Nope.
Oh, yeah.
Which, Nope is like a really out-of-pocket movie. Like, it's Alien-esque. Like, it's not really scary, but it is kind of scary. It's Jordan Peele.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, they have, like, this alien creature from the sky, and they're kind of welcoming it because they're doing, like, the sideshow attraction. So the guy's like, oh, yeah, great. Like, we have actually something coming through.
Right.
And it swallows up the whole crowd. And there's a good probably 2-3 minute scene of this whole crowd being digested through this alien.
Yeah.
And it's just so claustrophobic for me. And you could hear the digestion of this creature digesting all of these people. They're going through almost like a small intestine of a creature.
Yeah.
And they're all screaming, and it's just pink, and you can see the thing like breathing and moving. I don't like claustrophobic things and like that.
Like, what I liked about it is like you think it's like a spaceship at first.
Yes.
Like, for like the most half of it, like half the way through the movie, you think it's like an alien spaceship, but it's like this actual like alien life form. Yes. It's like a cloud basically.
Like the spaceship is actually the creature.
Yeah, and that's like it's not like piloted by little green men or anything. It's like that's what like blew my mind about it. I'm like, oh, like that's the actual alien. It's not like Little Green Men or whatever.
No, not like the typical alien movie, and it's unique and it's different for sure. But just something about that, all those people getting swallowed, like
you hear the noises and stuff. Yeah, like, and it's like almost like mechanical sounding too, but like also like biological too at the same time. It was
like
very,
anatomically accurate.
Yeah, it was very like weird. And I don't know. He did a good job at that for sure.
I know it's different, and a lot of times when I watch these movies, I like to put myself in that situation because it makes it more like fun and more real. And I just think about that just being swallowed and digested by this huge creature, and everybody beside you is screaming. Everybody one at a time is making their way through like the digestion system of this alien, and it's a no for me.
Yeah, and then like you realize like he kind of puts a little comedy like now that you realize it's a life form that's digesting, and then like all this stuff would start falling from the sky. It's literally the alien taking a shit. Yeah. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
All right, so for my number 12, I am going to pick I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. So this is a very slow burn movie. It's directed, we talked about it before, it's Oz Perkins directed it, and it's not like a big jump scare, but it's just very unsettling. This movie, I love this movie. I think it's like one of the best slow burn movies ever.
It's so creepy.
It's very creepy, and he does a very good job at capturing like the essence of creepy in this movie. But it's the scene where Lily's on the phone with like I think her friend or her mom, and it's like nighttime. She's on the phone. It's an old corded spin dial phone, and like she's in the kitchen, and the phone's. It's like the cord's coming out from the living room, and you see the cord like slowly start to get lifted up like you know, from the blackness of the living room, and then it's like getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, and she's like talking, has no idea what's happening, and then all of a sudden the phone just like flies out of her hand, and she like jumps, and she's like terrified, and that's the whole point of the movie, is she's very like scared all the time, like she's very like frightening, kind of like Carly Beth from Goosebumps, you know, just scared of everything, and so like when she jumps, you're like, oh crap, you know. It's like,
and that's the thing with a lot of these movies is I watch them and I'm just like, could you imagine? Like,
could you imagine? Old house, you know, you're watching after this lady who's like basically she's a hospice nurse. She's this woman's dying upstairs, and like all of a sudden this weird stuff starts happening. Like it's a good plot for a movie. Yeah, and you're just like, what the hell, you know? Very like realistic feel, I think, is like that movie. Like that's how I picture like haunting stuff to happen, you know?
Yeah, like casual. I mean, not casually, but I guess like subtly more like that, because you're kind of like, okay, maybe it could be like the elastic and the wire pulling it back. Right. Like you're trying to gaslight yourself.
Yeah, maybe she's walking, you know, and it's just getting tighter and tighter. But no, like you see it like lifting up and like getting pulled into the blackness of the living room. It's very cool.
Yeah, I know. If that was me, I'd be like, okay, no, I just pulled it too tight.
You're trying to rationalize it. Yeah.
Everything's fine.
Yeah, I just walked a little too far. That's all. Yeah.
It's okay.
Oh man, it's a great scene. One of my favorite movies of all time. There.
Yeah, that's definitely like the definition of like a slow burn, unsettling, like eerie movie.
Yeah, it makes you feel uncomfortable.
The whole time.
What you got?
For my number 12, I picked the hospital scene from The Exorcist 3.
Oh man.
Which the rest of this movie I would say is pretty forgettable. It's nothing compared to the first. Reagan's not even in it. It's kind of just like a weird, kind of a cash grab out of just using the title The Exorcist, I kind of feel. I don't think it lives up to the title, but...
Well, I guess William Peter Blatty, the guy that wrote Exorcist, he directed the movie. This one, the third one. So I don't know. I don't get what maybe it's a continuation that he was like, hoping to do. I don't know.
It's very boring. I don't understand the thought process behind it. But there is probably... It's been called the best jump scene of all time. And I think that's arguable for sure. But the scene in the hospital, because the main character, the priest, he's in the hospital... And it's probably a 4 to 5 minute scene, and it's shot so smart. It's like this long scene of a hospital hallway, and there's doors on one side, and there's a nurse, and then there's like hospital security, right? And there's no sound, no nothing besides these people just walking around going about their job. And you're watching it, you're like, this is a scary movie, something's gotta happen. Right. So you're waiting, you're on edge, right?
Yeah.
4 to 5 minutes in, you're just waiting. The security's coming in and out of the doors, the nurse is coming in and out of the doors.
Yeah, it's just kind of like run-of-the-mill stuff you'd see in the hospital.
It's almost like you feel like you're watching a reality TV show for a second. Just people living their life.
Yeah, they're just doing normal stuff, you know?
And then the nurse goes in one room, and she turns the light on, probably to check on a patient, turns the light off, closes the door. Next thing you know, this like demon creature thing comes out with a pair of like garden-sized scissors.
Yeah.
And goes after her neck, and the music just like goes up 10 octaves.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it just comes out of nowhere.
It really does. It catches you like complete surprise.
And I even rewatched it today so I could talk about it, and it still made me jump. Yeah. And I've seen it like 5 times.
I know, because it's just like, they did it so well. I mean, just making it draw out that long, like 5 minutes, and then something finally happens. Like you kind of know, but you think it's going to be like, 30 seconds or something. And then you kind of get used to like, okay, maybe this is just some like random,
and I think,
cut footage or whatever,
And the scariest thing of it is like the stillness of everything. There's no music going. It's just people living their lives, and something's going to happen. And then it just comes out of nowhere, and it's like, and she just goes after her neck with these scissors.
Yeah, they're like those big like loppers, like head
wearing
shears.
just like this white,
like a nun.
It's like a nun's outfit, but it's all white.
Yes.
And we actually watched something. Shudder did like 100 scariest movie moments countdown, and they talked about this scene, and they said that this scene is actually studied in film classes.
Oh yeah.
How smart it was. Just the way the camera was, the way that there was no music, the way the jump scare comes out of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, literally.
You really don't know. You think something's going to happen, but it's not like a typical scary movie build-up where the music starts to rise and the camera starts to pan in on something. It's it's done so well.
Or like where you can anticipate it, Like I said, like when you're watching it, like the first 30 seconds, you kind of think something's going to happen, but then it just drags on. Yeah. And you kind of like get comfortable again. You're like, okay, this is just...
And then it catches you when you're comfortable.
Footage, and then when you're comfortable, that's the best point to strike,
I would definitely suggest, maybe not watching the whole movie, but at least look up that scene. I would definitely suggest watching it.
Definitely agree. Okay, so what did we at 11 now? So for
11.
my number 11, Let me see here. Now it's getting kind of hard.
Can I start narrowing it down?
Okay, so I guess I'll do Lake Mungo. So there's really only like one jump scare in this movie because it's a very slow
movie.
And it's the end of the movie. That's where you get the jump scare, but it's you finally, throughout the movie, it's the whole mystery surrounding Alice's deaths and like how she died and is her ghost still there and everything. Mm-hmm. And they finally get the phone and they see that Alice had recorded a video when they were at Lake Mungo and she's being chased by something, and you finally get your glimpse of what's chasing Alice, and it ends up being her dead body, basically from the future, you know, kind of like knowing your inevitable death is like chasing you, you know, that's the whole point of the movie. So yeah, and it's a good jump scare because it's like finally there's something freaky about the movie, because really there's nothing, it's more kind of like a mystery movie at first, you know, and then finally there's like a great jump scare and you see it and it's like this her bloated, like, you know,
gross,
dead body, decomposing body just like chasing her basically. And it's kind of like symbolic of life, you know.
It's like a mind fuck too.
It is kind of like a mind fuck. Yeah, it's like, you know, it's like symbolic of like the only thing you're guaranteed in life is death, and it's always like right behind you. Yeah, it's a great movie. It's a good jump scare though. You got to just watch it and wait till the end. It's hard for some people, and a lot of people don't like movies that are like slow burn like that.
Yeah, I think it's found footage too, isn't it?
Kinda. Yeah, it's like documentary style. Yeah. You know.
So it is kind of, but a lot of people that's why a lot of people thought the movie was real when it initially came out, because it's so kind of boring.
And it's in Australia too, and it's like you don't get a lot of movies coming out of Australia, you know what I mean? Like big ones, I guess. So
people were like, oh, this is boring, this must be real. And then that happens at the end, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Is that her?
Yeah, so that's my number 11.
For my number 11, I picked the old lady scene in It Chapter 2. Mm-hmm. Which, this is going to come up a lot, but something about old people, I just don't, I don't know. Like, I can deal with creepy kids, I just don't like old people, and when they get naked and they distort their body in weird ways, I'm out. I'm done. And in this scene, if anybody doesn't know, in the second It, all the kids are adults. All the kids are adults, so they go back to Derry, Maine, and, you know, they vow to fight back Pennywise or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Beverly, the girl in the group, she goes back to her old apartment, and there's this old woman living there. And the old woman's just being very creepy. Like, she sits down with her to have tea, and the old woman says something like, oh, you know, when you die in Derry, you never actually die. Yeah. And she sits there with a smile on her face for, like, an uncomfortable amount of time. Yeah. She's like...
Yeah, she's just like, it's super creepy.
Staring at Beverly.
It's almost funny, but it's like it's almost scary comical. At the same time. It's more frightening, but it's like almost funny.
And then Beverly, if anybody remembers the first movie, she had that like secret admirer card that she would read. Mm-hmm. And so she's reading that, and she's like, you know, your hair burns bright like amber sky, but in the background, this fucking old lady is just running around naked, and she's like,
yeah, like she's like claymation moving. Yes. It's like
unnatural body movements.
Yeah, very, very, very scary.
And you can see it just like subtly in the background, because at first it's like a sweet scene with Beverly, and then she's like doing whatever in the background.
She's just being super weird.
And if anybody isn't familiar with the story of Beverly, her dad was like abusive towards her. Mm-hmm. And the old lady she's talking to Beverly, but the old lady's in the kitchen because she said she was making cookies. So we don't really see her. We just kind of hear her voice at this point.
Yeah.
And she's saying, you know, my dad, he moved us here because he was in the circus. And as we see this, we see Beverly's looking on the wall, and her dad was in the circus, and the circus thing said Pennywise on it.
Yeah.
And he had the same, like, outline face as Pennywise.
Yes, yeah.
And, the old lady's voice starts to distort, and she says, are you still Daddy's little girl, Beverly? Yeah. And then she comes running out of the kitchen, and now she's, like, this 8-foot-tall, naked, barbarian-looking woman chasing after Beverly. But it's just, she's like, are you still Daddy's little girl?
I know, that is like a very uncomfortable scene, and very like creepy too, because like you said, there is always something weird with like old people.
And even just like
being weird.
Even when she just smiles and stares at her, and she's like, for like 30, 40 seconds, it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah, you're like waiting for a fly to like land on her eye.
Yeah, she doesn't blink.
Yeah, it's just like there's nothing there. It's very unsettling.
Yeah, and then you find out her dad was essentially Pennywise, so you're like, okay, this lady's messed up. Like,
yeah, but then it's cool because I remember that was like she was visiting that lady where she used to live. That old lady lives there now, and then like after that lady attacks her, she's like wakes up and like the place is abandoned. Nobody actually even lives there. So she was like imagining it's Pennywise
was probably doing it,
playing with her mind, but Yeah, I was like, oh, that's even weirder. Yeah. I know, it's freaky.
Oh, you gotta watch it. I'm not doing it justice.
I know. Alright, so for my number 10, let's see. I picked Drag Me to Hell. So this is like an outrageous movie, but it's Sam Raimi, so you know it's just going to be outrageous with like everything he does. And this scene, I mean, it's scary because it's just creepy, but it's just like an awesome jump scare. It's the part where Christine's like lying in bed and Justin Long's laying next to her, and she like wakes up from having a nightmare, and then like she's like, oh, you know, and she's like looking around the room, there's nothing there, and then she like slowly is laying back down, and the camera's following her, but as she like head hits the pillow next to her, instead of Justin Long, it's the evil gypsy lady that's like a demon now, and she's like screaming and like trying to attack her and like stick her tongue down her throat. You know, just typical Sam Raimi, like outrageous. But it's a huge jump scare, and I saw it, I'm like, absolutely not, no. It's insane.
Something with that movie, and the old lady just always wants to put her mouth in her mouth.
Yeah, she's always like trying to like lick her or like do something, like bite her or something.
Throw up in her mouth.
Yeah, it's insane, man. It's just that's Sam Raimi though, over the top amazingness.
Yeah, you watch it, and you're just like, okay, like how much longer can we go with this? And then it just keeps going.
Yeah,
it's just similar to Evil Dead, I would say. It's like, okay, how much longer are we gonna go with this? And keep going.
I know, it's amazing. It's just, and I mean, there's other jump scares in that movie, too. Like, when she's at the funeral.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, the corpse comes to life and is like, jumping
at her. Brings her in,
Yeah, and it's just insane. There's a lot of good jump scares in that.
Yeah, it's a very out-of-pocket movie, for sure.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely not one of my favorites, but it's definitely, like, honorable mention for jump scares.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's like The Exorcist 3. Like, the movie overall was kind of forgettable, but it does have a good couple of jump scares, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's my number 10.
My number 10, I picked the one scene from Deborah Logan, which the best part about this is the scene is called Snack Time.
Yeah, if you Google the scene, it's called Snack Time.
And it's a film crew, and they're trying to go find Deborah Logan, which we talked about that on here before too. But she's like a demented old woman.
Yep.
And she kidnapped this young little girl, and all we know is that they ran into this cave together. So Deborah's daughter and the film crew was trying to go to this cave, and they're like, "Where are you? What are you doing? Whatever." And the camera just pans around this corner, and Deborah's face has extended like 10 inches.
Like unhinged jaw.
And her jaw is like huge, and she's sucking on this little girl's head. Like, you have to look it up, because I just can't even describe it, but
I wish we had, like, video clips to put
I wish I could put it in there. It's going to be copyright, but...
I know. That's the problem.
I would love... literally, the young girl's head is in Deborah Logan's mouth, and she's just like... You could hear her, like, salivating and sucking on her head. She's like...
It's like a snake. Like a snake eating, like, like you see an anaconda eating, like, a deer or something.
That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looked like.
And then the daughter has a gun... But, of course, she misses. She shoots at Deborah, misses.
Yeah.
So Deborah lets go of the little girl, but then she does, like, this inhuman shriek with her jaw open. Her jaw is just, like, huge. She's like, and her jaw opens up, and then the scene just cuts. But it's so creepy, because it's, like, the last thing you expect. You think, like, maybe they're doing some weird shit down there, but no, she's literally sucking on her head.
Yeah, she's literally, like, trying to eat this little girl.
Yes. Like a snake would eat something. Like, literally sucking on it and trying to put it down. Oh.
Yes, it's super uncomfortable.
It's called Snap Time.
Oh, man, I know. Okay, for my number 9, let's see. Oh, man, it's getting real tough now. Alright, so for my number 9, I picked Insidious. It's the one scene, I think so it's... Oh, man, hang on, let me think. Okay, yeah, so it's the one where, it's like their second or third night in the house or whatever, and the alarm gets tripped, and so they go down, Patrick Wilson goes downstairs and sees the door wide open, shuts the alarm off, is like looking around the house and everything like that, and then Rose Byrne's laying up in the bed, and she hears the baby like wailing over the monitor, runs into the baby's room, and like you don't really notice it at first, you probably would have to like rewind it.
Yeah.
To just actually see it, because like there's a man standing behind the crib and like the silhouette of like the little like wispy skirt thing that hangs over the crib.
Yeah,
and he's like standing, and you can like just see his face, and like she doesn't notice it at first, and then she like does see it, and she's like, whatever, Josh. There's a man in the room, and I'm like, obviously, you don't really see it until she says something, but when she says something, it's not even there anymore. The camera like pans away, so you don't see it. It's like perfectly done. There's a lot of good ones in Insidious like that. Like, we don't notice the things.
That's what I was just going to say, is that those movies have a lot of those. I love watching them over and over again to see if I can spot the little creatures in the background.
Yeah, a lot of, so even The Conjuring also has little Easter egg things like that in it.
Yes. But it almost looks like not Dracula, but it almost looks like Dracula, because his face is like kind of like powder white.
Yes.
And like dark black hair. Yeah,
it's like slicked back. He kind of does look like Dracula. But yeah, it's like that. I remember seeing it and having to like rewind it, and then you see it and it's like, oh my god, what the hell is that? It's super creepy.
He's in there a couple times, because like the first night they're there, she hears the baby monitor go off, and he's like, it's like a man yelling, and he's like, I want it! And he's like yelling and freaking out, so she runs up there, but no one's in there.
Yeah, no one's in there.
And then she sees him in there the next night, which, could you imagine just going in your baby's nursery?
Yeah, there's just like a man standing, oh my god.
I'd be like, sorry kid, we're out.
Yeah, just close the door, sorry baby.
If there was a man like that in my kid's room, sorry, we're done. You gotta throw the whole kid out at that point. Sorry.
It was, oh man, that's such a good scene. There's a lot of them in Insidious, but that's definitely one of my most memorable
And the
ones.
music too, like the classic Insidious music. I don't even know what it is. Is it a piano, like the high shriek where it's like,
I don't even know. It's like some sort of like
violin or something?
Yeah, violent violin music.
Yes.
I don't even
like
know
pierce your ears.
Yeah, very like high-pitched violin playing.
Yes. Oh my god, that's such a good one.
I don't even know what number was that. Number 9.
Yeah,
yes. That was number 9.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so my number 9 is the phone scene in The Strangers, which I think most people love this movie, but I love this movie just because of how realistic it can be. I mean, this particular event could happen to any one of us this second. It could happen to us tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no rhyme or reason. There's no monster. There's no ghost. It's just humans being humans.
Exactly.
And The Strangers is a home invasion movie, but it's done very creepily, where the 3 home invaders make their way in very slowly, very eerily, until like the big build up at the end.
Yeah.
And Liv Tyler is our main actress, and her and her husband, her and her boyfriend have like a falling out. So she's in the house alone, and she's had a long day, so she's taking a drag, smoking a cigarette, drinking some like scotch or something. And this is probably a 3-minute scene, but she's just standing there in the kitchen, and very, very slightly in the background you can see the home invader creep in.
Yeah, he's like slowly, like you just see it's creepy.
And he's wearing a black suit and a white mask, and it's all dark in the background. Like if we were in our house, we'd have the lights off, we'd be standing in the kitchen with the lights on. And all you can see is his mask start to appear, and he's just watching her.
Yeah.
And it's, like I said, it's like a 3-minute scene of her just sitting there, like, going on about her day, and he's just standing there, and it's so unsettling. And then finally, he makes a noise intentionally, and then she realizes someone's in the house. She goes to grab her phone, of course, no service.
Yeah.
And then the movie goes on from there. But something about that scene of just going out about your day and someone's watching you.
Yeah, it's just like that whole you got eyes on you, but you don't know it. You know, it's insane. And it's just, like how you said, how it's like long like that. Because it's like she's just continuing like nothing. But like the whole time watching, you're like, turn around, girl, like turn around. Yes. You got to look who's behind you.
And it's like, if you don't see it, you almost wouldn't see it because there's no clues to it. There's no music changes, no sound is there. So it's almost like if you don't see it while you're watching it, you're just like, oh, she's going on about her day.
Yeah, it's just like dry, cut footage,
You have to look for it, and then once you see it, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. It's like, oh, there's a whole
that could happen to any of us, anytime.
Yes.
And the fact they just got in that easily, they didn't make any noise, she didn't even notice they got in, they just walked right into her house, and now they're watching her.
Right, exactly.
It's so creepy.
Oh man, alright, so for my number 8, the heck is it? Sorry. There was a...
We got like construction going on outside.
Sorry. It sounded like something like came through the window. I'm picking... Oh man, this is hard because I didn't do them in order, but I'm trying to go in order with them, like from my favorite to least favorite. So for my number 8, I think I'm going to pick Smile. So this scene... Smile's got a lot of jump scares in it, but
it does.
This one, just because I've never seen anything like this in cinema before, and when I saw the trailer, because it had this jump scene in the trailer, I was like, we gotta go see this. This
I
is
know
like
you said it to me immediately.
Yeah. I've never seen this done, but it's the scene where she's at her sister's house, and she's like telling her sister like all the, like what's happening with her. Like she keeps seeing these people smiling, and there's like the whole mythology
which
behind
sounds
it.
dumb, but I suggest watching it.
It's a great movie. It's a very, very good movie. But like and her sister's not like listening to her. Right. She's like, "No, you're crazy. Like, get out of here." Basically, same thing happened to mom is happening to you. Like telling her like you're schizophrenia, or whatever what mental disorder she might have. And so she, like, runs out of the house to the car, like, crying, and you see, like, she's, like, in the car crying, and, like, all of a sudden you see the sister, she's, like, walking out of the house. Like, the door opens, she's walking out of the house, walking down the walkway toward the car that's parked down the street. And you see her, she's just kind of crying and everything, and you slowly she gets closer and closer and closer and closer to the car, and she's right at the car window, and then she, like, knocks on the window, and then her head, like, flips down. Like, you just gotta go watch the clip. It's one of the most iconic clips ever.
It is.
And it's just, you're just like, what the... Her head just completely, like, flips.
Like, it does a 180.
Yeah, and, like, her head's upside down. It looks like she'd be on top of the car, like, looking down over it, but she's standing in front of the car.
She's standing
or next to the car. And her head just, like, flings over like that. That's the motion it does. And she's, like, smiling, and then she, like, just, you know, the girl freaks out and, like, ah! And then, like, I think the sister actually does come out, like, what, you know, what's wrong, you know? Are you okay? And then I think that's kind of the whole end of the scene.
It's done so well, because you're thinking, like, oh, she just left her sister's house, and the way she knocks on the window, you're almost like, she's gonna be like, hey, you forgot this, like...
Yeah, it's something like that, because it's not like she's not walking, like, menacingly or anything like that. It's just, like, normal walk. You think she's just gonna be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel like that, you know, but no, her head just comes... Oh,
it's, like, swinging around, like, her head just, like...
Yeah, so definitely, if you guys have not seen Smile, go check that one out. There's a lot of good jump scares in it. It's a really good, excellent concept for a movie. Very, very creepy. It'll make you not want to smile or see people smile at you.
Very well done.
Yeah, so that's my number 8.
My number 8, I picked the hide-and-seek scene from The Visit, which, again, is old people being creepy as fuck.
Yep.
The brother and sister in this movie are playing hide and seek under, I would say is it a crawl space?
Yeah, it's a crawl space under the house.
Yeah, they're playing hide and seek under this crawl space, and they're filming everything. It's almost, some of it's found footage because they're trying to make a documentary, so they're filming it, and she tells her brother, you know, go hide and I'll seek, or whatever.
Yeah.
And, the grandma comes out of nowhere, and she's, like, crawling towards the sister, and she just goes, here I come!
It's so scary.
And the sister's like, oh, screw this, I'm out.
Yeah, she's like, what the hell, Grandma?
She's like, Grandma, chill.
Yeah.
So she leaves the crawl space, and then the brother's like, Becca, like, are you still looking for me? And then next thing you know, the grandma comes after him, and she doesn't even say anything. She's just like,
yeah, she's just like, and she's like moving quick, too. She's not like, you know, she's slow. Scurrying. She's like a wild animal.
Like, literally, that's the best way I compare it to. It was like some kind of animal that like moves on all fours. And he's like running away from her in the crawl space, and then it ends, and he's like walking out the crawl space, and she's like grabbing at his ankles.
Yeah, then she like comes out and is like laughing, like, I got you. Like, you're like, what the hell was that?
And they're just like, Grandma, that's not cool.
Yeah, they're like, that movie, I felt so bad for those two kids.
I know.
Oh, that's such a good movie.
And it's filmed well done because, you know, in a crawl space, there's like, I'm not going to say this right, but there's like pillars in it.
Yeah, like the pylons.
Pylons. So like there's like ways to film it where you can like hide around corners and stuff. So you kind of think something's going to happen because you can kind of see people hiding around corners or whatever, and then she just comes out of nowhere like, here I come.
Yeah, it's so creepy.
Just old people being creepy as shit.
I know, literally just being the creepy old people. Alright, so for my number 7, picking Hell House. So Hell House LLC. I wanted to do like one from each movie, but I couldn't really like think of them at the time that we had, and I didn't want to make the list obviously way too long. But it's in the original Hell House, the one from the first in the franchise. It's the one scene where Paul turns on his camera, and he doesn't notice it at first, but he's like, I just heard some creepy-ass noise, I'm going to go check it out. And there's a girl, like when he turns on the camera, you see it, and that's the jump scare, as the camera flicks on. There's like this dead girl sitting against the wall. He doesn't know it's there, and he's like, I don't know what the hell that was. I just thought I heard somebody like a big noise or like some screaming or something like that. And then he's like, you know, turns the camera, and he's like, what the and, you know, he like gets under the covers, and then like the girl gets closer, like you can hear it, he's like breathing all heavily, and he's like, and then he like lifts up the sheet, and the girl's face is like right there in the camera, and then Paul disappears for like a couple days, and they find him again in the basement. We got to do a whole.
But he's like not the same. He's not the same Paul.
He was possessed like at that point, but it's that scared the crap out of me. That watching that movie for the first time, that movie genuinely scared me. Yeah. I don't know why. There's just something the way Stephen Cognetti filmed like Hell House that's
it's so
very, very scary. Yeah. It freaked me out. Like I had trouble sleeping and stuff.
Aww.
And, no, I'm serious. It's a scary movie. I don't know why. And a lot of people I feel have that when they watch Hell House. Like it's something about the way it's filmed. It's very creepy.
Yeah. No, I listened to a podcast on this girl. Shout out Horror Chronicles. She has a really good horror podcast, but she said, too, that she lived alone and she'd sleep with all the lights on after she watched
House. Oh, yeah. It's just, like, yeah. Like, it's very, very well filmed.
It's very good. And it's, like, something so real.
It's realistic.
Like, we've all been there. We've all woken up in the middle of the night, like, oh, shit, I heard something.
Yeah.
So imagine grabbing a camera. There's just a dead girl.
Like, and then just pans over and he sees it now and he's like, oh, my God, what the fuck? He thinks it's one of the props and everything. And
I know. And there's, even in the new one, there's a good scene like that where he wakes up and he hears something in the clown's there.
Oh, my God, the clown's that's another terrible.
Which, if you haven't seen Hell House, the clown literally has, like, black tears coming out of his eyes. Like, if you don't like clowns, it's not it, sis.
We'll have to do a whole episode on the whole Hell House franchise because it's definitely probably one of the greatest films made in the past,
I agree.
What is it, almost 10 years
Especially
now.
for the budget and for the... I can't even get into it. There's too much.
Especially
for being found footage.
So that's my number 7.
My number 7, I picked... Which this could be, I guess, considered an iconic horror movie moment as well, but I picked the alien scene from Signs. Which, if you know, you know. If you've seen Signs. But,
that's a good jump scare.
It's the scene, I think.
It is the scene.
But, like, you're watching on the news, it's Joaquin Phoenix, and he's watching on the news a birthday party in Brazil, and it's a good, like, drawn-out scene, all the kids are speaking in a different language, they're at the window, and he's like, move, he goes, vamonos. And, finally the kids, like, the camera goes out the window, and it's just this walkway, and this huge, like, 9-foot alien comes out of nowhere and just walks by, like, just casually.
Yeah, and he's like, it's menacing, too, because he's like looking around, he's, like, prowling almost.
Yes.
It's like, he's, like, looking around, ready to, like, attack, basically,
And, like, it's coming because you're watching this, and you're like, okay, it's on the news, it's a news clip, they're filming for some reason at this birthday party, so something's coming, but still, when it comes, you're just not ready for it.
Yes, exactly. I remember seeing that in theaters with my grandpa, and because he loved, like, science fiction movies like that, and, oh my God, man, I remember being, like, a little, like, I don't know, was it 2002 that came out, or 2001? I was, like, 7.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah.
But I've heard people say that scene, like, really messed them up when they saw it when they were younger, which I could see.
Being a young, like, 7-year-old kid watching that, thinking it's real, because it's news footage, you think it's real, And
it's like a birthday party just like everyone else. Like, we all have birthday parties, and then this
oh my God,
9-foot tall alien comes out of nowhere.
That is a good one.
Crazy.
Alright, so for my number 6, I picked The Conjuring 2. It's the one scene where, Janet? This is the little girl,
Janet,
right? The one that's possessed, okay. Yep. Janet's staying home sick from school because her throat's bothering her. And she's just sitting there watching TV, she's, like, eating something, it's a rainy day and whatever, and then, like, she's sitting there watching TV, and then, like, the channel, like, starts changing, and she's like, what the heck, and then she changes it back, doesn't think anything of it, and it's, like, good for a couple seconds, then it changes again, she changes it back, and then, like, the TV goes, like, all staticky and stuff like that, so she's like, what the heck, and then the phone rings, so she sets the remote down, answers the phone, it's her mom, she's just checking in on her, and, then she goes back to the, watch the TV, the channel's on again that she's watching, and then it changes again, and then she goes to get the remote's missing.
Yep.
And she's like, what the heck? And then she's like looking around, and she's like crawling over the TV, and it starts staticking again, and she's like trying to change it manually, and then it turns off, and you see in the TV, there's a man sitting in the chair behind her with the remote, like that, pointing at the TV. She turns, and as she turns, and then she looks back, the old man's, like, from behind the TV, he yells, my house! And it's probably one of the best jump scares ever. I mean, because you're not, like, it's just such a split second. Like, you don't think that's going to happen at all.
No,
He's just like, my house, right in her ear, and she, like, screams and runs out, It's so good. James Wan does such a good job with that.
And when she turns around to look at the chair, you can see, like, in midair, the remote, like, drops to the ground.
Yes, it falls,
And you think, like, okay, that's it. Like, it's just gonna...
That's the scare.
A lot of times in those movies, like Conjuring and Insidious, they do little things like that to lead up to the jump scare, or, like, the ending, like, the...
Yes. The climax.
The climax is what I'm looking for. So you kind of think that's going to be it, but then when the TV goes out and he's like, my house.
When that's like, that's what I mean. Like, do you think the remote, like, falling, that's the jump scare. It's like, oh, man, that is freaky. And then it's like, my house. Oh, my God, it's so scary.
Which I remember being little, and that was always creepy. Like, when my TV went staticky, that was always creepy to me.
Yeah.
And then when it would go out, I just can't imagine seeing a face behind you, like, staying home from school, and then seeing a face behind you like that. I would be petrified.
I know. It's like, just, she looks, and it's that split second when she, like, just turns back around, and he's right there.
I'd be done for.
I know. No way. No way in heck.
Okay, so for my number 6, I picked a scene from the movie called Talk to Me. Mm-hmm. Which, this is probably like a lesser-known movie. I don't think it got a theater release or anything.
No, it was out in theaters.
Was it?
Yeah. But okay. I don't think it was for very long, no.
But it's kind of a strange concept. They have this hand that is possessed, and when you grab the hand, you get possessed by some kind of, like, demonic presence. And you can watch these, it's all these kids that have the hand, and they take turns all holding it, and then they tape each other because they're teenagers.
Yeah, you can, like, talk to the dead, I think. It's like, you put your hand on the hand, or you shake hands, basically, with this hand. Yeah. And, like, you can talk to a dead person, basically.
It used to belong to, like, a psychic or something.
Yeah, there's some, like, myth behind it.
Mm-hmm. And usually when they grab the hand, their eyes go black, and you could tell that they're, like, in a different
they're, like, in a trance or whatever. Yeah.
And the main character, her little brother... he kept wanting to do it, and they were like, no, you're too young, and then he's like, no, I want to do it, and this was probably the scariest part of the movie, and he grabs the hand, and his eyes go black, and his neck goes back, and he starts almost, like, choking on his own saliva, he's like, and, like, freaking out, and then he immediately starts to rip his eyeball out, and the girl comes over, and she's like, no, they let him, like, sit in it, you're not supposed to do it longer than, like, 30 seconds, but... they let him do it longer.
Yeah, it was like 3 minutes he was in this thing. Yeah.
So then he started to try to rip his eyeball out, and then the chair he was in gets, like, ripped away, and he goes over to the corner, and he bashes his head on the desk repeatedly. Yeah. Just keeps bashing his head till it's all, like, mangled. Yeah. And then he ends up in, like, the ICU the rest of the movie, but it's so... I remember watching this, my jaw was on the floor.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
Brutal. It was very brutal.
And especially to do to a kid. Like, the kid was probably 12 in this movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's another scene in that. Not really a jump scare, just kind of, like, disturbing. Yeah. Where, like, he's, like, it shows what he's like in that, because he's, like, in a coma now, but, like, in the coma, there's, like, she's able to see into the coma by, doing the hand thing. And he's being, like raped by spirits, basically. Yes. It's a very disturbing scene in that
And even
movie.
while he's in the ICU, he's still, like, repeatedly trying to hurt himself. He, like, falls on the ground,
he's
breaks
trying
his
to,
arms,
like, kill himself. It's
so the spirits can, like, take over him. I have to watch the movie again, honestly.
It's a good movie. That's very, like, kind of disturbing scene in it, but very good.
But you don't expect it, because the rest of the kids, like, they do some weird stuff, and before that, it's kind of comical, because the guy that gets possessed, he, like, makes out with a dog.
Yeah, it's like doing, it makes you do, like, weird stuff, you know? It's kind of comical.
You're like, oh, they're just teenagers playing around, and then he does it, and he just starts going after his eyeball.
Yeah, that's insane. Alright, what are we at, number 5 now?
Number 5.
Number 5, okay. Let's see.
Top 5.
Top 5 here, okay. So I picked, for my number 5 is going to be A Tale of Two Sisters. So this is, like, probably one of the scariest movies ever made. Yeah. A lot of good jump scares, very well done jump scares. I think this is, like, a film that's studied, too. It's a Korean movie. The scene I'm talking about, though, is the stepmother, she's, like, in the kitchen, and she thinks she hears something, and she looks under the sink, and the sink's weird, because, like, it's not like a typical sink where you can, like, look underneath the cabinet, basically. Yeah. So the sink's, like, in this cabinet that you can look underneath of. And she's, like, crouching down. She's looking under the cabinet because she thinks she hears something back there. And then, like, you see, like, this chair behind her as she's coming down to look under it. And then she's, like, doesn't see anything. And she, like, lifts her head up slowly again. And where that chair is behind her, there's this girl in a green dress. It's one of the sisters. And she's just there. And that's one jump scare it's like, this is like a twofer, basically, because it's, like, all in one scene, so, and as she's, like, lifting her head up, she starts feeling the presence, like, she feels like there's something there, and, like, you see her eyes, like, slowly start to pan over to look to see the girl, and she does, and the girl's not in the chair anymore.
It's like, where is she?
Yeah, it's like, what the heck?
Where'd you go?
It's not even, she doesn't even see her, though, that's the thing, like, she just feels the presence of something there. And so she's like, what the heck, she's like you could tell she's very terrified, the look on her face and everything, how slowly she's like, panning her eyes over to look at it. She doesn't want to see anything, obviously. And then she looks down at the ground where she was just kneeling, and there was, like, a ring on the ground on, like, this little talisman type of thing. And she, like, picks it up. And as she picks it up, a hand comes out from underneath, and it's so just drawn out and grabs her wrist, and she, like, freaks out. I mean, it's very, like, acting is awesome in this movie, too. Yeah. She's, like, hysterically crying, like, traumatized from this, and it's just so well done.
Sounds about right.
This is, definitely a movie to go watch. A good Korean film that's very, all Japanese horror is going to be very, it's like next level. Yeah, it's good. There's a lot of good jump scares, and Oriental horror.
But I could relate to that. I would be the same way. I'd be like, if I could feel a presence on me, I'd be like, okay, I don't want to see it. I don't want to turn around. Yes, that's
the whole feeling you get. And it's
but then it, like, puts it almost in your face with, like, the ring. Because then you go to grab it just casually.
I know. And as she's actually running away from that, you know, after getting grabbed, she runs and then she sees... You know, the girl in the green, she's like right there in front of her. And that's, it's like a 3. You get a 3 for
just an intense, like, scene. 5 minutes,
Yeah, and it's only like maybe a 3-minute scene, but it's like so well executed. Like, you don't know, there's like the little hint in the background, and then the hand coming out from under the sink. That was just well done. Oh, alright, so that's my number 5. Tale of Two Sisters.
My number 5, I picked the demon behind the shoulder scene in Insidious.
Oh yeah, good one there.
Which there's a lot of Insidious ones that are creepy. Oh, yeah. But if anybody hasn't seen Insidious, you know, these 2 main characters, their son is in a quote unquote coma, but he's actually like astral projecting into a different dimension with like demons.
Yes.
To really give like the Cliff Notes version of it.
Right.
And there's a scene with Josh Lambert, who's our main character. He's the dad.
Yeah.
And he's sitting at the dining room table with his mom. Mm-hmm. And the way that it's filmed is it keeps flashing back and forth between the mom and Josh. Yeah. And they're not seen together in the same scene. It's just, you know, the mom's talking and then it flashes to Josh. And
yes.
That's important. There's a reason I'm saying that.
Right.
And the mom is saying, you know, what's happening to your son I've seen before. Mm-hmm. And then she says, you know, I had a dream last night that I was walking through your house and I felt like somebody else in the house was awake. So she's telling a creepy story while, you know, while you're waiting for something.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I went into, you know, your son's room and there was a creature in there. And I asked him what he wanted and why he was there. And he said he wanted Dalton.
Yeah.
And this is probably like a 3-minute scene. It's kind of drawn out and it's very suspenseful the way the music is kind of building.
Yes.
And she says it wanted Dalton.
Yeah.
And she goes, I'll never forget that voice. And then it flashes back to Josh. And there's just this, like, red face demon behind his shoulder. And it just opens up its mouth and lets out this, like, inhuman shriek.
Yeah, it's like...
And the music, of course, the classic Insidious violin, high-pitched music plays in the background. And it's like... And then the mom starts, like, freaking out.
Yeah, she, like, falls out of the chair. She's so scared.
And Josh is like, what? What's the big deal? What? Yeah. But it's so, like I said, you're just thinking that the climax of that scene is her story.
Yeah,
it's creepy
it's just
enough.
Like a built-up story.
Yes, it's creepy enough, but like I said, it's like her talking for a few minutes, flashes back to Josh, he's just listening to her, not really saying anything, and then it flashes to Josh, and he has this demon right behind him.
I know, some like Darth Maul-looking dude from Star Wars.
And he's just opening up his mouth, he's like, whoa!
I know, it's insane. There's so many good ones in Insidious, and just all the James Wan movies, there's so many good
So good. It's almost like a... Not a calm scene, but you think it's just a story she's telling.
Yeah, like, you're not expecting that to happen.
No.
Not at all. Alright, so for my number 4... Alright, let me see here. This is where it's going to get real tough. Okay, I guess for my number 4, I'm going to do The Medium, which is, I think this is a Thai movie. We've talked about The Medium before. It's one of my favorite ghost movies. But the one scene in particular I'm talking about is when Ming is... They're looking for Ming. She's like running. She ran out of the house and it's the middle of the night. The camera crew is like chasing after her. She like runs into this field. She's got a knife, and like the camera's like panning around, and like the camera guy turns around. Like the last time he turns around, Ming's just like standing there, and it's like, oh my god, jump scare. And then she like pounces on him with a knife and starts trying to stab him. I think she does stab him like once or twice. He's okay. He lives. But they, like, get Ming back. But it's super just the way it's filmed. Like, she's in this tall grass, and, you know, the camera's, like, panning around, like, Ming, where are you? They're calling for her. And then it's just, like, right there. She's on him with it. It's like, oh, my God.
I love when they do that with the camera. Like, they move it back, and you're, like, waiting. Like, okay, this is going to be the take. This is going to be the take where something happens.
Yeah,
like,
and it is kind of drawn out. Like, they're generally, like, it's the whole, you know... chased into the field for her and everything like that, and like there she is.
Oh, you're just waiting. You're like, surely this is going to be the scene where they jump out, and then it's not. And then when they do, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Even if it's something as simple as just seeing them, you're like, oh god.
I know, it's super. Yeah, it's a very good jump scare. There's actually a few in that movie that are pretty good, but that's definitely my favorite.
Okay, so yeah, this top 4 is hard. I feel like a lot of these top 4 could be interchangeable, honestly, because they're all pretty well done.
Yeah.
But for my number 4, I picked The Conjuring and the first Conjuring, the hide and clap scene.
Oh, yeah.
Which this whole family plays this game called hide and clap, which is essentially hide and seek, but they wear a blindfold and you get 3 claps, and then you use the sound of the claps to find the person.
Yeah.
And the youngest daughter was like, Mom, no one ever plays hide and clap with me, whatever, let's play. Mm-hmm. And they're the only ones in the house, and the mom puts on the blindfold, and she's like, okay, first clap, and the daughter claps, and then we hear the basement door open, and we hear a clap from downstairs. Yeah. And so we're like, okay, maybe it's the young girl, whatever. So the mom goes down into the cellar, and shit gets crazy. Like, the power goes out, she ends up, like, falling down the stairs, like some presence pushes her down the stairs. Yeah. So she finally, takes her blindfold off, and she's just like fighting for her life at this point. She's like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, she's like in shock. She's got like a match lit too,
and
right?
then she finds a box of matches and she lights it, and the scene is her like on the steps, and she's using the match to try to find out like what happened, how do I open the door or whatever. And from behind, these pair of hands come out right behind her head and go and the lights go out again, and then she just starts screaming, and then the scene cuts, and she runs upstairs, and the little girl's like, I was in this room the whole time. You didn't find me. So the daughter was upstairs the whole time, not even in the cellar. Yeah. But what I'm telling you, I saw this movie in theaters, and that scene, I have
I think the whole audience. Like, I remember seeing it, and like I think everybody in the audience watching that jumped. Like popcorn was flying.
I have goosebumps right now talking about it. Just when the hands come out.
It is terrifying. It's one of the most terrifying scenes.
That was nuts.
Alright, okay, so, man, this is tough here. I think... Alright, so for my number 3, another James Wan terrifying movie, and this one's got a lot of jump scenes in it because, again, it's an old woman movie. Dead Silence from 2008. Yep. We got to do an episode on Dead Silence.
I love Dead Silence. Such an underrated movie.
Oh my god, one of James Wan's.
Was that his first one, too?
Saw, I think, was one of his first, but, yeah, this is definitely one of his best, but it's the scene where Henry, he's the mortician, his wife, I forget the guy's name, Jamie, his wife, he brings her to the mortician back in, like, his hometown, and, like, I want her buried, and, everything. Yep. And then he starts, telling Jamie about Mary Shaw, the whole curse and everything, and after he's done telling that, Josh is going to investigate more because, the doll and everything's there, but... After Henry the mortician's telling Josh the story, Josh leaves. He starts hearing something in like the crawl space, and he thinks it's like his wife. She's kind of got like something wrong, or like I think it's like a son or something. I can't remember exactly who it is, but like they go in that crawl space, and he thinks it's that. He goes in the crawl space, and he's got a flashlight. And he's like looking around, and then you see this hand like come around like one of the pillars, and he's like. I think it is the wife. He's like, honey, is that you? Is that you? Are you okay? And, like, the hand, like, goes back, and it's, like, so creepy. It's like you hear, like the clicking of the bones, and it, like, pulls back, and then he's, like, starts to move forward and, like, jumps out in front of him. Mary Shaw, and she's this ventriloquist that's, like, a ghost, and she is terrifying looking. I mean, she is the stuff from Nightmares, and rips his tongue out right there. Because you're not supposed to scream. That's the whole curse of Mary Shaw. You're not supposed to scream, or she'll take your soul.
It's
basically.
Like a folklore rhyme.
It is. It's like a folklore movie. But, oh my god, that was the most terrifying. I remember watching that when it came out, and I was, I don't know, 15 at the time.
I highly suggest Dead Silence if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I think it's on Tubi.
Oh my god, it's a great, great movie. One of James Wan's best ones.
It's a really good movie.
Yes, and puppets got everything. Creepy old women and puppets.
Yeah. So. All the scary shit.
All the scary stuff. It's nightmare fuel. So that's my number 3, Dead Silence right there.
Okay, so for my number 3, I picked the scene from Hereditary. It's called Just Hanging Around. Which I love the titles for these scenes, I have to say. But it's pretty much the whole ending of this movie is terrifying, I would say.
Oh, I know exactly what you're
mostly the scene where the son, who's, I think it's Alex or Nat Wolf, one of the wolves, he's laying in bed and he wakes up and you can just barely see in like the top corner of his room, his mom is just like, I don't even know how to say it. She's literally on the wall somehow, holding on like this and just hiding in the darkness.
Yeah, I love that. I will film that.
I don't know, but isn't it Ari Aster?
Yeah, Ari Aster. Yeah, the way he films things is so good.
Yeah, because it's, again, one of those things where you're like, wait, what, is something there? Like, it's wearing...
like a silhouette. Like, that's what's so scary about it.
And she's kind of wearing, like, a white or, like, light blue nightgown, so you can kind of see it in the dark, but you kind of can't. And he wakes up and he's, I think that was the day he, like, smashed his head at school, so he wakes up later, and he's like, Mom, like, is someone there? And then you hear her scurry across the ceiling, and she runs down the stairs. Literally scurry like an animal.
She's like, it's like a little chipmunk running around.
Oh my god. And then he looks outside and he sees the light on in the treehouse, and then if you've seen the movie, you inevitably know what happens from there.
Yeah.
But the mom's basically possessed at that point, and she's just, when you just see her standing in
that scared the crap out of me. I knew exactly what you were going to talk about, too. She's just, like, in the corner, and it's like she's almost, like, smiling, too, which is even creepier.
Just watching him sleep. Like, how long were you there?
It's so creepy.
And then when she scurries, it's like...
It is so freaking creepy.
Again, people just, like, contorting their bodies. I don't like that.
Oh, I know. It's such a great movie. That's a great one. All right, for my number 2, it's not really a jump scare or anything. It's just very uncomfortable, but it's The Witch. Robert Edger's The Witch. And that movie, it's a period film, like a lot of his movies are period films. But, oh man, it's just something just so, like, diabolical about that movie the whole time you're watching. You know, like, just bad stuff's happening and going to keep happening. And the scene, it's really just probably like 5 seconds long, but it's the goat. They have Black Phillip, they call it, and they start thinking Black Phillip's actually the devil, and that's like the whole premise of the movie. And you see Black Phillip, he like gets up on 2 legs and starts walking. And goats do that, like, naturally, I guess, but it's just so creepy in the whole that he's the devil, and, you know, it's a billy goat, he's got the horns, he's all got the beard and everything. Aww. He's cute, you know, he stands up, and goats do that, like, they'll stand up on their hind legs and walk on their hind legs, but it's just so uncomfortable watching it, because you know that's the devil.
That's the devil.
And then at the end of the movie, obviously, you come to find out that Black Phillip really was the devil, and, you know, he makes a pact with the girl and everything.
That's so creepy.
Oh, it's just so unsettling, and it's literally just like maybe a 5-second scene. When I saw that, I just hair raised up, goosebumps, and just I'm getting chills now talking about it.
Yeah, animals too.
Yeah, it's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable, and you're like, yeah, that's definitely the devil. Like, that just confirms that's the devil.
Yeah, I know, animal stuff can be really unsettling.
Man. And it's the goat, too, you know, it's always associated with the devil,
like the biblical stuff.
Yeah, you know, so it's, oh my god, it's so unsettling. But yeah, The Witch, that's my jump scare, my scare from there.
Okay, so for my number 2, I picked, the scene from The Conjuring 2, where we are first introduced to Valak, which is the nun, and it's Lorraine Warren and her daughter. I think her name is Judy, and Lorraine kind of falls asleep for a little bit on her couch, and she wakes up and she goes out in the hallway to find her, like, where'd Judy go, and Judy's just standing there like this, and Lorraine's like, what's wrong? And the daughter, it's so creepy, she puts her hand up and she's like, Mom, who's that?
Yeah.
And they turn, and it's this genius long hallway shot, and it's just Valak the nun just at the end of a hallway.
I know.
And it's so unsettling. And then you think it can't get much worse, right?
Yeah.
And then the nun turns, and she walks into the Warrens' office. So you're like, okay, not only is this thing in my house, but it's just letting itself around. Like, it's just letting itself go wherever.
Yes.
And while we first see the nun, this, like, gothic gospel music starts to play, like this, like, demonic gospel music.
Like the old school, like monk, you know,
I don't even know.
Yeah, like church, like medieval church music.
Yes. So then Lorraine's like, you know, stay here, Judy.
Yes.
I don't know what the hell this thing is. So she follows the nun into the office, and on the record player, the gospel music starts to play again. And it's this long, drawn-out scene, and there's a painting in there that Ed Warren had done of the nun, because he said he had a dream about this figure.
Yeah.
So it's hanging on the wall, and, you know,
I don't know why you would have that hanging
I don't know why either.
That's the most terrifying thing ever.
I know. If you haven't seen a picture of the nun, look it up.
Oh, God.
You know. And then basically, you watch this. I mean, a few things happen. There's a couple of jump scares. Things start to move.
Yeah.
And the lights go out around the painting, and all you can see is, like, the outline of Valak's face, and you can't tell. You're like, is it real? Is it not? Is it still the painting? Because the lights are out. So then Lorraine literally has to walk up to the painting and turn the light back on, and it's just the painting still.
Yep.
And then we see the music gets, like, higher, like the octaves get higher, and we see this figure of the nun, like a shadow, walking along the wall.
Oh my God, I know.
And making its way to this painting, right? And then it makes its way to the painting, and then there's probably like a 5-second pause. Next thing you know, you hear like these creaking, and these hands come out from behind the painting and grab onto the painting. And they're white, like you can tell that they're Valak's hands. Yeah. And then again, there's like a 5-second pause, and you're like, okay, well, what's gonna happen now? And then you just hear like Valak like yell, shriek, and she starts storming at Lorraine with the picture, with the picture, running at them like this.
Oh man, it's genius. It's such a good shot. I think the creepiest part though, out of that whole sequence was just her in the hallway. It's like it's like the old wallpaper, and at the end of this long hallway, there's just like this nun demon thing standing there, and it's just like. So, like, if you woke up in the middle of the night and saw that, you'd probably have a heart attack and die.
And there's so much that goes along with it. Like, how long was Judy just standing there staring at this thing? Because the nun's just staring at her, so, like, you just walk out.
Fixed on each other.
They're just fixated, like, what are you? Oh, and then it just makes its way into the house, and...
Yeah, no, thank you. I would die. Yeah. I would just die.
Definitely the scariest thing to come out of the Conjuring universe is the nun.
For sure. Annabelle's got nothing. Dead Silence is way scarier than Annabelle. I don't fight anybody that says differently.
I don't think Annabelle's I have a hard thing with dolls, making them scary.
It is, puppets, though, on the other hand.
I love Chucky, but I just don't think they're that scary.
No. Alright, so...
Number 1.
My number 1. Dun-da-da-da, drum roll. It is House on Haunted Hill, 1959.
The old lady?
The old lady in the basement. I remember watching this movie when I was like 7 years old with my dad, and I had nightmares for weeks. My dad showed me this movie, and oh my god. It's the scene. It's like most iconic scene in horror cinema. She's tapping on the wall because they're like, how'd I get my head? The guy Lance is like, got bumped on the head, and he's like, there's somebody else in the room with me, so they're trying to investigate. She's like banging on the wall, he's banging on the other side of the wall, and they hear a hollow spot. She's like, right there. And then she pans back up with the camera, and she's holding like a candlestick, and behind her is this like woman.
Oh,
and she's got crazy white hair, black gown, fingers like this, and she's like face is all distorted, and she's got like whited over eyes, and she's like, and that's the biggest jump scare in cinema history, in my opinion. That is nothing more terrifying than that. And then she like floats out of there. Like,
I was gonna say, she like goes after her all like.
No, she doesn't even go after her. She's like the girl's screaming, and then she just like hovers away from her like that. It's so terrifying, God. I mean for the time too. I mean, I can imagine people in like 1959 in the theaters probably fainting from that. Oh my god, it was just so iconic. William Castle shot that brilliantly. And that's one of my all-time favorite movies is House on Haunted Hill because of Vincent Price.
Yeah. And that's another thing is like horror has evolved so much that like a lot of our scariest moments are like, Insidious, Conjuring, all that because we've evolved so much. But obviously older movies for the time were so like
that stands the test of time.
When I saw, when I was researching for this, everybody was talking about, like, Psycho, like, the shower scene and all that, and I would consider that now more iconic.
Yes.
Now, given the horror that we have and, like, the movies that we have now, I'd be like, okay, that's more iconic than scary. So it's tough, for sure, but this is all subjective to us, what we find scariest, because there was a lot of, like, older movies, Or even, like, Halloween, like, when he's, like, in the clothesline or something, that is scary, but...
It's not really...
There's more scary, I think.
In our opinions. I mean, some people might find that, terrifying.
I just think we've evolved so much that now we're able to pick, like, Insidious, Conjuring, whatever,
you bring that kind of stuff into it. But, I mean, that, for the time, even nowadays, the people get freaked out. That's still so freaky. I mean, she's just like...
Yeah, some of them have still, like, stood the test of time.
It's insane, man. It really is insane.
But we love old horror movies. I just think newer ones usually scare better.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, that was really the only old one that I had on there.
Okay, so for my number 1, it's not really a scene more than like a character, but I picked the old woman from Insidious.
Yeah. Basically that woman from House on Haunted Hill.
I know, when you were describing her, I was like, that sounds like the old lady from Insidious. But I know these are like scariest moments or whatever, but like very rarely does a movie actually like scare me or affect me, but when I tell you I think about this woman very often, I think about her very often. She's this, like, same thing, like, black dress, black veil, face is, like, powder white, creepy little fingers, and she's always smiling and holding a candle. Yes. And we see her a few times between Insidious 1 and 2.
Yeah.
In the opening of Insidious, she's kind of standing in the window.
Yes.
And then when, I'm not going to go into the whole movie, she's got to watch it, but when Josh goes into the other dimension or whatever.
Yep.
He has like a standoff with her where he's looking in the mirror and it's this old woman.
Yeah.
And she's just like this, holding a candle, smiling, and he's yelling at her. He's like, "What the hell do you want? Leave me alone!" And she just starts giggling.
Yeah.
This old granny giggle.
It's so creepy.
And he's like, "Get away from me, get away from me." And then, like, the camera starts circulating, and we just see her and him, like, having this, like, standoff.
Yeah.
But I think the scariest time that we see her is, which this is my personal opinion, but I think the scariest time we see her is the childhood photographs.
Oh, my God, yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
When Josh's mom is like, here's some pictures I took when you were younger. At first, I thought it was just something on the camera lens.
Yeah.
And you could see, like, he's, like, holding up his baseball bat, like a typical childhood photo, and sitting in this car is this fucking woman.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
the black veil.
Yeah, like, you see her, like, and it's, like, in the corner, and it's cool because, like, the mom even says, like, she kept getting closer to
I don't
and it's
like that.
as you're going through the photos, it's, like, first she's, like, behind the tree, next it's, like, she's, behind him, and then it's like next it's like
her
hand's on him, and stuff.
And then the next one, her face is like right. Oh.
Yeah, it's so terrifying.
That put me in.
That I completely forgot about that.
I started anti-anxiety meds after that.
Yeah.
That did it for me.
That was such an iconic scene.
And it's so drawn out. And the mom was like, she just kept getting closer and closer and closer to you. And then we come to find out that this woman thing is actually, she gets a backstory in the second one that it's actually a man.
Yes.
Whose mom made him castrate himself because she wanted a daughter.
Yeah.
And she made him dress like this and everything, and that's why he was going after Josh, because he never got a childhood.
Yeah,
So that's why he was doing it, but he's basically this, like, bottom feeder demon that was just trying to get his life and trying to take over for him, and she does at the end, and, spoiler alert, the movie's been out for, like, 10 years, but at the end, she chokes Annalise, Josh chokes Annalise, but she's able to snap a picture before he chokes her.
Yeah.
And this picture's creepy as fuck, too.
Yeah,
and it's just the old lady, she's like this.
That's the old lady, yeah.
And we think it's Josh, but no, the old lady took over his body, and he's just smiling. Oh, I can't.
I know, it's such a good...
I'm retiring, I can't.
Such a good... That old lady is such a good idea. And that's what, it reminds me of Mary Shaw. I wonder if that, like, drew inspiration.
It does, yeah.
Because it's literally, like, the same person, basically.
Yes.
Like, it's James Wan directing both those films, so I think that he pulled inspiration off Mary Shaw.
You're very...
Because that came first.
You could be right on that. I don't know what it is. Like I said, I don't know what it is with old people.
I don't know either. There's something creepy with old people, and it's just scary.
Like
the old woman, like House on a Haunted Hill. But like how both of ours are, like, old women. For our, like, scariest moment.
Our poor grandmas.
I know.
But it's so funny because a lot of people are scared of, like, kids getting possessed or whatever, and I'm more like, fuck those kids, like, I'll just leave them somewhere or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But, like, just for some reason, old people just get me.
It's so creepy.
I don't like it.
Yeah, there's just something about them being like, I don't know.
And then when they get, a lot of movies, they get, like, naked and contort their bodies.
Yeah.
And, like, in The Visit, there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Like,
when she's, like, sundowning, oh my god, that's so terrifying. She's, like, running around the house.
That's a whole different concept that's creepy, too, is, like, demented people, because it's like, where is their mind?
Yeah.
Like, you could venture out, like, are they possessed?
Yeah,
are they in this different...
Yes, exactly. Are they getting possessed? Are they getting ready for the spirit world? Is that why, like, their mind's, like, leaving them and
like,
stuff?
obviously, medically, that could be disputed, but, like...
Sure.
You want to get, like, fun and spooky with it.
Yeah, it could be. You never know.
Alright, well, we'll be back next week with a new episode, but until then...
Stay spooky, guys.
Stay spooky.